What would you do if you woke up in the middle of the night and overheard your own husband planning to destroy your entire life? That is exactly what happened to me at 2:13 a.m. I heard him say these words on the phone. Transfer everything tonight. She will sign the papers in the morning. In that moment, my world shattered. I was not waiting for betrayal. I was sleeping next to it. And the next 48 hours became a fight for my identity, my freedom, and my survival. This is the story of how I turned his trap against him and watched justice rip away everything he thought he would steal from me. Stay till the end. You will not believe what happened. At 2:13 a.m., Isabella Reed woke suddenly to the faint glow of hallway light slipping under the bedroom door. Her heart pounded, although she could not explain why. There was no nightmare, no sound loud enough to wake her. Only a sharp instinct pressing against her ribs like a warning. She stayed perfectly still, eyes barely open, as soft footsteps crossed the wooden floor outside. A voice followed. Low. Whispering. Careful. It was Adrian. Isabella shifted slightly, careful not to disturb the mattress. The digital clock glowed with cold red numbers in the darkness. Outside the window, wind pushed against the glass. The world was quiet. Too quiet. Then she heard him clearly. Transfer everything tonight. She will sign the papers in the morning. Isabella felt ice flood through her veins. Transfer everything? Sign what papers? Her breath caught as she listened. She did not move. She did not blink. Adrian's voice became colder, flattened by control. Yes. By tomorrow morning everything will be under our control. Someone else was on the other end of the call. A woman. The voice was quiet, confident and unfamiliar. Isabella felt her stomach twist. A name flashed sharply in her mind. Victoria. She had seen the name once on a hotel receipt. Adrian claimed it belonged to a client. Now it made sense in a way she wished it did not. Adrian's tone slipped into a gentle laugh that felt poisonous. Do not worry. She will be too stunned to fight. She trusts anything I say. The words hit harder than any shout could have. Isabella bit down on her lip to stop a sound from escaping her throat. He thought she was blind. He thought she was weak. He thought she was already defeated. Inside her chest, something cracked open. Not panic. Not fear. Fire. She listened until footsteps approached. Then she turned quickly toward the pillow and slowed her breathing as the bedroom door opened. The mattress dipped as Adrian climbed into bed. He exhaled, relaxed, satisfied. After several minutes his breathing lengthened, heavy and even, whether he was really asleep or only pretending. Isabella rose quietly and stepped into the hallway. Her bare feet touched the cold wooden floor as she slipped into Adrian's office. Using her phone flashlight covered by her palm to hide the brightness, she searched through drawers, hands trembling. Halfway through, she found something hidden beneath paperwork. A second phone. Burner style. Locked, but not very securely. She opened it and the screen lit up. Message threads glowed bright white against the dark. Victoria H. Everything is prepared. Move quickly. She will not suspect anything. Once she signs the mental evaluation documents we are safe. Adrian. She will be gone soon. Mental evaluation. Documents. Erasing her legally and financially. Not divorce. Destruction. Isabella's breathing shook. Her throat closed with a painful burn. She took screenshot after screenshot, capturing everything. Every timestamp. Every line. Every number. Then she stopped. In the black reflection of the phone she saw her own eyes looking back. You think I will break, she whispered. You have no idea who I am. A sudden creak behind her. She spun. Adrian stood in the hallway silhouette. His expression unreadable. You are awake, he said gently. We should talk in the morning. Big plans are ahead. His smile was thin. Sharp. Cruel. Isabella forced a calm breath into her lungs and walked past him slowly. Yes, she said quietly. Tomorrow. As he brushed her shoulder while passing, he whispered near her ear. Get some sleep. She waited until she heard the bedroom door close quietly. Then she grabbed her coat, slipped out the back door, and stepped into the freezing night air. The wind stung her skin, but she welcomed it. Pain meant she was alive. Hands shaking, she called a number she had not dialed in years. The line connected. "Chloe," Isabella whispered with a broken voice. "I need your help. Do not ask anything. Just come." There was a long silence. Then, "I am coming right now." Isabella looked back at the dark outline of her home. Her battlefield. She exhaled, steady, controlled. Not defeated. Awakened. 30 minutes later, headlight beams cut through the darkness as a grey sedan pulled into the abandoned parking lot beside the old library. The city felt asleep, buildings silent like they were holding their breath. Isabella stood behind a rusted lamppost, arms wrapped tightly around herself, trying to stop the shaking. The car door opened and Chloe Bennett stepped out, still wearing pajamas under a long coat. Her hair was messy and her expression tight with fear. "Isabella, what happened? You sounded terrified." Isabella rushed into her sister's arms. The contact broke something inside her and she finally allowed herself to shake. "He is trying to erase me," Isabella whispered. "He forged documents. He has a plan to take everything. There is another woman involved. It is not just an affair. It is a conspiracy." Chloe stepped back and held Isabella's face gently, eyes fierce with disbelief and anger. "Tell me everything. We will fix this. I promise." Isabella pulled the second phone from her bag and showed the messages and screenshots. Chloe read them slowly and her expression transformed from confusion to rage. "Oh my God. Isabella, this is criminal. We need a lawyer right now." "I already know who to call," Isabella said, voice steadying. "Marilyn Shaw. She handled a corporate fraud case for my company years ago. She is the best." Chloe nodded and opened her own phone. "Then we go now. You are not spending another night in that house." They drove through the sleeping city, streetlights dragging long reflections across the wet pavement. Isabella watched through the window, silence thick between them. Her thoughts replayed Adrian's voice again and again. Each time she remembered the words, her spine straightened a little more. "Transfer everything. She will sign. Naive enough to believe anything I say. No more." A glowing sign appeared ahead, marking the law office building. Chloe parked quickly and they rushed up the empty stairwell to the third floor. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting harsh shadows across the hallway. Marilyn Shaw, sharp-eyed and serious, opened her office door before they even knocked. She had clearly been awake, files already spread across her desk. "I got your message. Sit. Start from the beginning." Isabella explained everything. Every detail. Every word. Every document. Marilyn listened without interrupting and only spoke when Isabella finished. "I cannot believe the level of planning involved. Isabella, what Adrian is doing is not a personal dispute. It is a criminal conspiracy. Fraud. Coercive control. Identity manipulation. Attempted property theft. Possibly medical or legal falsification." Marilyn slid a stack of printed pages forward. "I pulled your financial records before you arrived. These transactions are already underway. Property transfer requests. Retirement account withdrawals. All processed with signatures that are not yours. This is very serious." Chloe leaned forward, voice shaking with anger. "So what do? "We fight," Marilyn answered. "If he is willing to use the legal system against you, then we turn the system against him. But we need evidence strong enough to destroy him before he destroys you." She slid a blueprint-like paper toward Isabella. "This is our plan. You document everything. Every call. Every message. Every financial movement. And you act completely calm. He cannot know that you are aware. You must let him believe he has already won." Isabella stared at the plan. Slowly, a cold determined strength rooted in her chest. "I can do that," she whispered. Marilyn nodded. "Good. Also, we will not make this a simple divorce case. I am contacting Detective Elias Grant. He has prosecuted financial predators before. If we set the trap correctly, Adrian will convict himself." A knock interrupted them. Marilyn opened the door and Detective Grant entered. Tall, quiet, observant. He looked at Isabella with steady seriousness. I read the files. If what we suspect is true, Adrian Reed will face charges that could put him away for a long time. We need a clean confession. Traps work better than accusations. Can you stay calm in front of him? Isabella lifted her chin. Yes. He thinks I am weak. I will let him believe it. And then he will fall. Detective Grant nodded once. Good. Then we begin right away. You will invite Adrian to a quiet dinner tomorrow night. Pretend it is reconciliation. Pretend you believe every lie he offers. And when he exposes the truth himself, we take him down. Chloe looked at Isabella, eyes shining with fierce pride. Are you ready? Isabella took a slow, steady breath. I am done being afraid. She looked at her reflection faintly in the dark window. Adrian thought he had already buried her. Tomorrow, he would learn what it means to underestimate a woman who refuses to disappear. The next evening, Isabella lit candles around the dining table, their soft light dancing across polished glass and silver. She arranged plates carefully and placed a bottle of Adrian's favorite wine at the center. Everything looked perfect. Calm. Inviting. Her hands were steady, although her heart thundered beneath her ribs. Every second felt stretched thin. Every sound felt amplified. Chloe and Detective Grant waited secretly in the adjacent room, hidden behind the sliding partition that Isabella had intentionally left unlocked. Small recording devices were already positioned across the space. Tiny microphones were concealed under the table. A live audio link connected straight to Marilyn Shaw's office, where she and her team waited to capture every word. Now all that remained was Adrian. At 7:46 p.m., the front door opened. The echo of footsteps filled the hallway. Adrian entered wearing a confident smile, his expression soft and almost affectionate. This looks beautiful. I did not expect this, he said gently. It is good to see you ready to move forward like an adult. Isabella forced a polite smile and gestured to the chair across from her. It felt like the right time to talk calmly. I want to understand what you want and what will make things easy for both of us. Adrian's smile widened. He believed her. His eyes gleamed with satisfaction. Good. That is exactly what I hoped you would say. He poured himself wine and leaned back. There is no reason for conflict. The future can be clean and simple for both of us. Isabella kept her gaze low, her voice quiet. I want peace. I want things to end smoothly. He nodded approvingly. Exactly. And I already prepared everything. All we need is your signature tomorrow. Look how reasonable I am. I am offering you a comfortable exit. She lifted her eyes slowly. And what do I get? Adrian laughed softly. You get freedom. No responsibilities. No pressure. You will not need to worry about financial matters anymore. I have taken care of everything. He swirled his wine and raised the glass to his lips. Honestly, Isabella, you should be grateful. Isabella felt the burn of anger coil in her gut, but she did not let it show. She rested her hand lightly on the table and spoke softly. I just want to understand something. Why would you take everything from me after all these years? What did I do to deserve that? Adrian leaned forward with a slow smirk. You were in the way. You always were. You were too emotional, too inconsistent. I built everything we have, and you would have wasted it. Victoria understands real partnership. You do not. Isabella blinked slowly, pretending confusion. So you planned this whole thing? Of course, he said casually. It took months. Fake evaluations. Bank transfers. Forged signatures. Very clean. You never even noticed. His tone became colder. And tomorrow you will sign the final document without reading it because you trust me. You always trust me. That is your weakness. Isabella pressed lightly on the underside of the table, signaling Detective Grant that the confession was rolling. She lifted her chin just a little. Tell me what you gain by destroying me. Adrian laughed again. I gain everything. The business. The property. The accounts. Freedom from you. Victory. And once you are out of the picture completely, Victoria and I will enjoy the life we deserve. He leaned back, self-satisfied. You were only useful until now. At that moment, the sliding door behind Isabella opened. Chloe stepped out first, eyes blazing. Detective Grant followed, voice commanding but calm. Adrian Reed, you have just confessed to fraud, coercion, financial identity theft, and conspiracy. Every word has been recorded. Adrian froze. The color drained from his face. For a moment, he could not speak. Then fury exploded across his expression. You set me up. You little liar. You will pay for this. Isabella stood slowly, her eyes locked on his. No. I am done paying for your lies. You built your own trap. You walked into it proudly. Adrian lunged toward her with rage twisting his face, but Detective Grant intercepted him, forcing his arms behind his back and locking handcuffs around his wrists. Adrian shouted violently as he struggled. You think you have won? You are nothing without me. Nothing. Isabella stepped closer, her voice calm and cutting. I found out who I am the moment I stopped believing you. Adrian screamed curses as Grant dragged him toward the door. Chloe reached for Isabella's hand and squeezed tightly. It is over. He is finished. Isabella let out a long shaking breath that seemed to leave her body in a single release. The fear that had been sitting inside her chest for months evaporated like smoke from a snuffed flame. The worst was behind her. The war was ending. And she did not break. She fought. 2 months later, the courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the back wall, legal assistants shuffled papers, and a low nervous hum filled the air. The case had already gained public attention. People whispered Adrian's name like he was a scandalous headline, and in a way he was. Isabella stood near the front with her hands clasped lightly together. Chloe sat beside her, offering quiet strength. Marilyn Shaw organized papers confidently and Detective Grant waited ready to testify. All of them were calm, prepared, certain. Across the room, Adrian sat shackled, wearing a tight, bitter expression. His expensive suit looked out of place under the harsh fluorescent lights. He glanced at Isabella, hatred burning in his eyes, but she did not flinch. She stared back with steady control. The judge entered. Everyone rose. Silence took the entire room like a held breath. Judge Rahman spoke with a firm voice. We are here to conclude the case of financial conspiracy, fraud, coercive psychological abuse, and intentional identity manipulation. The evidence provided is complete. The confessions are recorded and verified. We will hear final statements before sentencing. Adrian's lawyer attempted one last weak defense, painting him as misunderstood and emotionally overwhelmed. No one in the room seemed convinced. When the attorney finished, Judge Rahman turned to Isabella. Mrs. Reed, would you like to speak? Isabella stood slowly, smoothing her hands across the front of her blouse. She stepped forward to the center of the courtroom, shoulders straight. Her voice was steady, clear, strong. For years I believed I was the problem. I believed I was small. I believed I deserved less than respect. I allowed myself to feel unworthy and powerless. I let him convince me that I needed him more than he needed me. She paused and looked directly into Adrian's eyes. What I did not know was that I was being slowly erased. My identity. My rights. My future. Everything taken piece by piece until nothing of me remained. And he expected me to stay silent. He counted on silence. Isabella lifted her chin slightly. But silence is how victims are buried. I will not be buried. Not now. Not ever. I refused to let him take my life and I refused to let him do it to anyone else. Isabella stood slowly, smoothing her hands across the front of her blouse. She stepped forward to the center of the courtroom, shoulders straight. Her voice was steady, clear, strong. For years I believed I was the problem. I believed I was small. I believed I deserved less than respect. I allowed myself to feel unworthy and powerless. I let him convince me that I needed him more than he needed me. She paused and looked directly into Adrian's eyes. What I did not know was that I was being slowly erased. My identity. My rights. My future. Everything taken piece by piece until nothing of me remained. And he expected me to stay silent. He counted on silence. Isabella lifted her chin slightly. But silence is how victims are buried. I will not be buried. Not now. Not ever. I refused to let him take my life, and I refused to let him do it to anyone else. The courtroom was motionless. Even Adrian's attorney looked stunned. Judge Rahman nodded slowly, respect visible in his expression. Thank you, Mrs. Reed. Your strength is noted. He adjusted his glasses and read the verdict. Adrian Reed is hereby sentenced to 18 years in state prison for financial coercion, forgery, conspiracy, and psychological abuse with intent to cause permanent harm. All stolen assets are to be returned immediately. An additional compensation of $3.4 million is awarded to Isabella Reed for damages. A permanent protective order is issued. Removal from all business and financial control is effective immediately. The gavel struck sharply. The courtroom erupted in whispers. Adrian exploded up from his seat, screaming as officers dragged him away. You will regret this, Isabella. You are nothing. Nothing. Isabella stepped forward, calm as stone. I am free. His voice faded down the hallway until there was nothing left. Chloe wrapped Isabella in a tight embrace and breathed against her shoulder. You did it. It is finished. No. Isabella smiled softly. It is just beginning. New life. 6 weeks later, Isabella stood inside a bright community center surrounded by a small group of women. A banner hung behind her, printed with warm colors. Financial Freedom for Survivors Program. Chloe and Marilyn sat in the front row, smiling proudly. Isabella looked at the women in the chairs. Some trembling. Some quiet. Some broken the way she once was. She felt a powerful wave of purpose rise inside her. She spoke gently. If someone tries to take your voice, fight for it. If someone tries to erase you, show them who you are. Strength is not never falling. Strength is standing up again and again until no one can push you down. The room filled with soft, hopeful applause. Later, Isabella stepped outside into sunlight. The sky glowed gold and warm, wind soft against her skin. She stood still, eyes closed, taking in the simple quiet nothingness that once terrified her. Now it felt like freedom. Real freedom. She whispered into the light. Thank you for taking everything from me, Adrian. Losing everything is how I found myself. She smiled. Then she walked forward into her new life.